On to Abdullah. Abdullah is a First Move subscriber. He subscribed to the First Move, and Abdullah, I want to thank you for subscribing. And I saw this question that you actually sent via the email, via the form on the website on movecollective.com. What would actually trigger a Turkish military confrontation with Israel? I think that the Israelis are not interested in attacking Turkey itself. I think what they want to do is to ruin Turkey in Syria. The Israelis want to take large swathes of Syria, and they're finding that Turkey is standing in its way. The Israelis believed that after Bashar al-Assad fell, that they would be able to use their leverage and influence in Washington to govern what comes next. What they were surprised about, and why Netanyahu kept visiting the United States over and over and over, almost 7-8 times in the past 2 years, is because Netanyahu became frustrated that Donald Trump is not only hearing from Netanyahu in one ear, but also Erdogan on the other. Erdogan, who's been telling Donald Trump that Ahmad al-Shara is not going to be problematic for you, that Ahmad al-Shara is not somebody who was going to lead to the disintegration of Syria, that if you support him, he can keep Syria intact, meaning you don't need to get involved directly, you don't need to spend your resources, you don't need to send your troops. Ahmad al-Shara can keep the peace. Erdogan has been saying to Donald Trump that look, after all that happened in Syria, this guy comes and takes Damascus, he issues pardons, he tries to keep all the sectarian groups, tries to bring harmonization in the community, limits revenge attacks and the like, that this is somebody who at least is willing to discuss and talk with the West to try to normalize the state of Syria in its relations with the Western world. Erdogan has been saying to Donald Trump, who's the only party who keeps causing you a headache in Syria after Assad has fallen? And the reality is, Erdogan's been saying it's the Israelis. The Israelis want you to spend money. The Israelis want you to send troops. The Israelis want you to have war in Syria. Mr. President Erdogan says, we in Turkey are the guarantors of this peace. We'll make sure Ahmad al-Shara behaves. Don't you trust me? I stood with you when they rigged the election against you in 2020. I continue to be your friend. I hate Biden too, because Biden used to say that he would support the opposition against me in toppling me when he was running for election in 2020. Mr. Trump, you know I'm your friend. You know I'm your ally. You know I'm somebody that you can trust. Trump turns around and says, Erdogan is my friend. I like Erdogan. And therefore, Trump has been more inclined to go along with Turkey's project for Syria, which is to allow Ahmad al-Shara, which is to keep Syria united, which is to prevent the emergence of a Marxist separatist Kurdish state in the northeastern regions. And Trump trusts Erdogan so much that the last of the American troops left Syria last week, meaning there's no American presence anymore. The Israelis are deeply concerned at the level of influence that Erdogan has, not over Trump, but that Trump listens to Erdogan. And this is why I think the Israelis are desperately keen to ruin that relationship by painting Turkey as a threat to the Americans, as a threat to the Israelis, leveraging and lobbying for a confrontation between the US and the Turks. It's why there have been suggestions that maybe Turkey should be kicked out of NATO. It's why there are suggestions that Turkey is no longer in favor of US interest in the region. And that's why the US has also cultivated this relationship with Tom Barrack, the US ambassador to Turkey, who is a Zionist, who once said that why should Israel respect the borders of the region that were drawn up by the British and the French? Israel recognizes these are tribes, suggesting Israel can go as far as it wants. Tom Barrack and the Turks have nurtured a relationship whereby Tom Barrack at least comes out openly and says to the Israelis, they need to stop provoking Turkey. That Erdogan is truly an ally. And this is very problematic for the Israelis, who are used to monopolizing that influence. They're used to monopolizing US influence over US foreign policy. And that's why I think that what would actually trigger a Turkish military confrontation with the Israelis, Gaddafi many years ago said that one day there will be a direct border between Israel and the Turks. And the Arabs will be irrelevant then. And now when you look at Syria, it's almost a de facto border between the Turks and between the Israelis. I'm not doing this to discredit the Syrians in any way whatsoever, but the reason Damascus is able to continue to enjoy its stability at this moment in time is partly to do with the Syrians, but also significantly to do with Turkey's extensive lobbying on Syria's behalf in Washington, and Turkey's extensive lobbying in Abu Dhabi and in Riyadh in order to get these two capitals not to antagonize or to conspire against the government in Damascus to bring it down in a way that they brought the government down in Egypt and the way that they brought the government down in Tunisia and these other places. What would it take to trigger a conflict? I think that the Israelis want to use the Druze in the south to provoke a conflict. But as Tom Barrack said at the Antalya Diplomacy Forum, Ahmed al-Shara has not responded to those provocations. Ahmed al-Shara believes as long as he doesn't respond, then the Americans will not be forced to choose between the Israelis and the Syrians. As long as he doesn't respond to the Israelis and doesn't give the Israelis an excuse to go to the Americans and say, look, you see, now he's attacking us, then the Americans will continue to limit and restrict what Israel can do in Syria. And that is why the Israelis are going after Turkey. That's why the Israelis are trying and lobbying their media and pushing them to get rid of Erdogan, to say he is the enemy. Syria is the frustration between them.